Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now if you hear some background noise in this one, we have a very stormy day today and I'm right up against the window, so that's why. But the actual content of this video is gonna be about basically this graphics card right here. So my goal with this video is to basically make people aware that the HWBot Cheapaz Chips competition is going on. And the centerpiece of that is basically this graphics card. Now it's not this specific graphics card only, it is all the graphics cards that are based on the GT218 core. TechPower has a list on that. If you just look up the GT218 core on HWBot, it gives you a list of all the graphics cards that use it. And all of those graphics cards are eligible for the competition. Now this graphics card specifically is a NVS 300. Which, it's a passively cooled card, and it only has one output, which is one of those. I forgot what these are called. But basically what these are is two DVI outputs in one. You get like a cable with the card, and that cable like splits off into two DVI outputs. So yeah. And then the other most popular, so there seems to be three cards based on this core that are the most popular. That would be this one, the NVS 300. Then there's the GT210. And then there's the, I think, Quadro FX310 low profile. From what I've seen, those are the most commonly used graphics cards for this competition, probably just because those are the most commonly available ones. So yeah. There is one slight difference between these cards. Now the cores on those cards are all the same. They all have the exact same amount of shaders and all the other stuff. The one difference between the cards though is the memory. So the GT210, as far as I know, is available in DDR2 and DDR3. The NVS 300 is always DDR3, and then if you can get one of the Quadros, those can have GDDR3. Now, I looked for Quadros, there are none available, but there are a lot of NVS 300s, and also a couple GT210s. So I went for an NVS 300. I don't really expect the memory to make that big of a difference, because this core has 16 shaders. I don't think that we will be that memory starved. So while it might technically help you a little bit to get the GDDR3 or DDR3 version over DDR2 versions, I don't think there will be an actual difference. There might be a little bit, but I don't think it will be much, because this core is just so low end. I don't think the memory is gonna make that big of a difference, so you shouldn't really worry about it if you can only get like a DDR2 or DDR3 model, not a GDDR3 one. But yeah, so I've done all this talking about the graphics card now, and I haven't really gotten into why I'm making this video in the first place, because there's not really anything interesting about this card, other than the fact that the competition is going on. So, basically the point of the Cheapaz Chips competition is to use a piece of hardware that is so incredibly cheap and easy to use that basically everyone who wants to can join in. Usually the main hurdle for getting into overclocking, specifically extreme overclocking, is that it just costs a lot of money, because you need like a very fast CPU and very good RAM and a good motherboard to boost your GPU scores in 3D Mark and whatnot. For this one you don't need it, because this graphics card is so slow that no matter how good your CPU is, this one's gonna be the bottleneck. And it doesn't need any extra power. You can see the heatsink is passive. It doesn't need crazy amounts of cooling. I've even heard these don't scale that much with sub-zero temperatures. So even if you like, many people probably can't get liquid nitrogen or sub-zero cooling in general. On these cards, you're not gonna have a bigger disadvantage because of that as well. Basically, if you ever thought about doing extreme overclocking, modding, just maybe using it as an exercise to learn a little bit about electronics, how they work, or you just want to be on a level playing field with all the extreme overclockers for a bit, this is basically the time to start. Like, these cards are so incredibly cheap. I think I got this one for €5, and then I've seen a couple for €7, some for 10, a couple ones for 15 and 22, but I don't really know if you want to go for those, if you can get them cheaper. So these are very, very cheap. So you can get these, you can get them started. You literally only need like some random computer that has a PCI Express slot that still works. You could probably run an LGA 775 CPU and still not be bottlenecked, because these cards are just that slow. So yeah, like, you literally just need some random PC that still works and has a PCI Express slot available, and then you buy one of these cards and you can already get started. Then you can mod them, overclock them, whatever your heart desires, which I think is just really great. There's never such a low barrier to entry into overclocking as there is for this competition. So yeah, if you've ever thought about overclocking on HWBot, if you ever thought about, I want to try modding and some slight extreme overclocking, this is the time to do it. Because of all the reasons I just listed up. It's super cheap, super easy to get. There's no crazy requirements that you need to meet in order to be competitive with this. You literally just need the card, and then you go out and learn how to mod them. Like, you're gonna need like a soldering iron and stuff, but that's not like, these PCBs are so small. The thermal mass that they're gonna have, like, even the cheapest soldering iron is gonna be able to solder to these. You're not gonna have an issue. You're not gonna need like even my soldering iron isn't expensive. It was like a €50 soldering iron that I have. So that's, like, compared to what you can get, that's not expensive at all. But you can totally get like a dollar store soldering iron and it will probably still work on these. So basically that's the main part of the video, just like sort of an announcement. Oh, and I forgot to say when the competition is. So it started on February 11th and it ends on March 31st. So as this video uploads, the competition's already going on for like about a week. And it's gonna be going on for slightly over a month still. Well, not just slightly, like 1.5 months. Slightly under that. So yeah, you still have plenty of time to get started. And I will, of course, so I'm currently preparing to move places, and there's also other things I have planned with friends. So I don't think I'll have much time in the immediate future for this, but I will surely have time in early to mid-March to do things with this card. I'm gonna mod it, of course, I'm gonna bench it, I'm gonna be sharing what kind of mods I put on this, I'm gonna be sharing what kind of results I get, just basically share some benchmark data, just generally what you can do with the card. So you're not gonna have to do everything completely blind if you choose to enter this with no previous experience. And I think let's just take a little bit of time and look at the PCB specifically. So if you get an NVS 300, you will get this specific PCB. There's no other versions of this, there's just this one. If you get a GT210 or a Quattro FX380 LP, the PCB is gonna be slightly different. Well, not just slightly, it's basically the left part is gonna be customized. But yeah, I mean the basic makeup will be the same, it's just the layout will be different. So yeah, let's take a little look at the PCB. I haven't looked up any data sheets, but let's just take a basic look at what we have and kind of see what we can already find out. So I've seen people VoltMod this already, so I can say that this down here is our PWM controller for our vCore VRM, which is this. So yeah, we have our 12 volts coming in from the PCI Express slot. Then I think this one's the high side. Goes to switch node. That's the low side MOSFET. Here's our inductor. Here's our singular bulk capacitor, and then through an internal layer, that power goes to our core. And we have our PWM controller for that here on the back. So I've seen people mod this. I think this is the feedback pin. Yeah, like it goes into like a resistor array. This is probably the feedback pin, if I remember correctly. So yeah. Then here we have another inductor and capacitor config. That's probably our memory rail, because that's like usually the next most power hungry thing on the card. For that, I think these two might be MOSFETs for that, like very low power MOSFETs. And then one of these two, that APW8720. So this is gonna be another PWM controller for memory. Then this, I'm not really sure what this is. That can be many things. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is our memory controller, our memory VRM controller. Here we have probably two very low power MOSFETs, and then here's our inductor and capacitor. And yeah, I think this is just the memory power plane that you can see here, and then it goes into an internal PCB layer and goes over to the memory here. Then here we have a low dropout regulator, which is that can be the PEX rail, it can be 5 volts for the gate drive voltage of our MOSFETs. Then this, I also don't know what it is. That kind of looks like a BIOS chip just from the package, like from the marking. And this one, okay, that's an APL something, so that's gonna be something power related again. That might be the PEX rail then. This might be our BIOS chip. And then this one I don't know. This one I'm not sure about. So yeah, gonna need some further investigating. But yeah, I mean, there's not that many things on this PCB, so yeah. And then also this chip over here, I don't really know what that does. Might be related to the output. Sometimes you have here like some little 8-pin ICs on your outputs that do something with them. That might also be what this is, because it's semi-close to the output, but I don't think, maybe... Or maybe that's what, like, you see that there's like an empty spot for like a fan connector here. Yeah, maybe this is like for fan control. Like, it doesn't have the actual fan connector, but maybe NVIDIA still populated the components for that, because they couldn't be bothered to make a different PCB revision for ones that have a fan and ones that don't. Because NVIDIA is probably reusing this PCB for other things as well that do have a fan. So yeah, that might just be our fan controller. Actually, what kind of chip is that? Oh, come on. That's not really telling me anything. Alright. So, yeah. pretty simple PCB. Easy to mod. Actually, and then like cap mods might be tempted to just outright replace these capacitors, since they are just they're 4 volt 560 microfarad capacitors. I have much better capacitors than that. I have some either I should use 2.5s because 2 volts might be a bit too low for this. I think the 2.5 volts that I have 820 microfarads, and then I also have some 2.5 volt 1000 microfarad capacitors, and I think there's enough space to fit the 1000s in here. So that's essentially double capacitance, and then I can piggyback another capacitor on the back on the legs here, and then stack multi-layer ceramics behind the core for extra capacitance. And that's basically it. I could rig something like the Vika output of the inductor here, and then find a ground somewhere and put another capacitor between that. Other than that, there's not really that much stuff for cap modding on this card, because it's just that small and that simple of a PCB. So yeah. I will take a little bit of a closer look at the PCB off camera, and then decide what to do with the modding situation. But yeah, like then again, this core is like, just compared to the memory modules, this core is so small. Like the GT218 or the A25B1 variant that we have here is so small. It's not gonna produce any power. Like, it has a passive heatsink. Like basically, if you wanna keep these ice cold, it's just you keep the stock heatsink and you just take a case fan and point it at it. That's gonna like keep the card really, really cold already. Yeah. Also for the memory, I have mentioned that. So I have DDR3, as I've already said, and specifically Samsung G-Die DDR3. So if you don't know how to read the die revision of Samsung memory, so you see how they have this dash here. The letter before the dash is the die revision. So here's a G, so this is Samsung DDR3 G-Die. And we have 512 megabytes with 4 modules, so each module has 64 megabytes. I think that's 0.25 gigabits. Yeah, that should be 0.25 gigabits in density. So yeah, that's the memory we have. Usually Samsung memory has been quite nice for overclocking. I don't know about these chips specifically, but usually Samsung memory is slightly better at overclocking than everything else. Hopefully that's true for these memory chips too. So I guess I got quite lucky that I got Samsung memory on my card. So yeah. Then again, I don't think that the memory is gonna do much on these cards. I think the core is going to be very, very much the main area to focus on, because it's just 16 cores. There's not much that you can do. Like, I think the memory is gonna be so, like, it's gonna have, like, this is a 64-bit, but you might think this is a 128-bit bus, but essentially this is just, yeah, I don't know actually. On GT210s I've seen that these have clamshell memory modules. This one doesn't, but basically, like, yeah, it's a 64-bit bus. So this is basically just one memory channel. So this is like A0 and this is A1. I think this is A1 and this is A0. So both of these chips are like what usually is one entire, like just like one memory chip on other cards. Because usually you have 32 bits per memory chip, but this is a 64-bit bus, so you have 16 bits per memory chip, which is usually what you see on cards like the 3090, where you have memory chips on the front and the back, where you have 2 memory chips in place of 1 for double capacity, even though you lose half your bandwidth per chip. So yeah, But then again, I still think that we are gonna have enough memory bandwidth here that, like, I'm not saying that memory speed doesn't matter at all. Of course, when you overclock your memory, you're gonna gain a little bit, but I don't think that that's gonna be the main way to get performance. I think the main way to get performance is to just overclock your core. So yeah, wow, video has gotten quite long actually. So I think I should end it here. So yeah, very tiny little cute card, very cheap to get into. Just yeah, if you ever felt like doing some hardcore overclocking yourself, this is the time to do it. Like, everyone from beginners to extreme overclockers are on the same playing field for this competition. Everyone has this same graphics card. These cards are so old and so cheap that it doesn't matter what the rest of your setup is. This one is gonna be the thing you focus on. You can't really cheese this competition by having a fast CPU. So yeah. So just please think about it. If you ever felt like, maybe I'll try this one day, this is basically your time to do it. So yeah, I hope I could convince some of you to join. So until next time, goodbye.